The Aide to Deputy Chief Part 2. The following year was a rather unpleasant one for Tom Sines, I'm sure, except that he did support Young and served about another year under him until an opportunity came along for him to retire and take a position first as the Virginia Department of Transportation Director for the Dulles Toll Road and later the director of the private Dulles Greenway Toll Road. He had a great northwest corner office on the 11th floor, and my office was just 2 doors away, separated by a small file room. One of his finest accomplishments was ensuring that his secretary, whom he'd inherited from Mike Young when he first retired, got to be the chief's new secretary. She was a real airhead and continued on to be throughout several successive administrations. Even before we moved to the Massey building, I'd go up to Tom's office for some matter or another. His secretary would have just come from the ladies' room crying, her eyes still red, and without even being solicited would offer, "Tom's no Mike Young," to which I'd silently reply, "Thank goodness." So it was a real treat to see her move down to the other end of the hallway in the chief's suite of offices. That gave Tom and me a chance to interview for a new operations deputy secretary. The one who really got Tom and me to realize that we really were operating on the same frequency was an applicant, Janet from another planet. Believe it or not, this is how she referred to herself in her employment interview. Luckily, we were also on the same frequency when we selected Pat McDonald, an avid marathon runner, exercise instructor, and great all-round person for the position. It turned out that Pat's husband, Brian, was the CEO of the Navy Federal Credit Union and actually provided quite a number of retirement positions for police, financial crimes detectives, and investigators to retire into. Pat, Tom, and I had what I remember to be a really great time working together. The chief's office had a policy of replying to every piece of written communication. We'd get 20-page-long handwritten tomes from mentally disturbed constituents, and we had a file in that same file room next to my office, which we called the Signal 34 file. Signal 34 being the old police radio code for a mental case. The chief's secretary would call us and ask for an update on such and such a piece of correspondence, and we'd say, "Oh, it's been taken care of," which of course meant it was in the Signal 34 file. Tom Sines and I had some pretty wild adventures as deputy chief and his aide. Once we were attending a large multi-jurisdictional meeting in Prince George's County. Of course, Tom took my suggested driving route through D.C., which almost made us late. All of these high-level police officials sitting around a huge conference table. The press were let in to shoot some B-roll, which was background footage. And when they were done, we were all told we could leave, that the elected officials would be reconvening outside at the podium where the press was set up. God, Tom was really pissed. We did get a chuckle out of several observations. Number one, D.C. Mayor Sharon Pratt Kelly had a huge butt. When she got up from the table to reconvene to the podium, Tom said under his breath, "Jesus Christ, she's as broad as she is tall." I also remember that at some point later, recounting that same meeting, we put together a grammar chart conjugating the word to be, as in B-E-E, using some stick-on B stickers that Tom had brought from home. I have that piece of paper today, and Tom and I never miss an opportunity to reminisce about it. Another day, we were returning to the office from lunch somewhere in Fairfax, west of I-66, and heard a police chase on the radio involving some robbery suspects. We were careening through Fairfax City, lights and siren, Tom at the wheel, me on the radio. There was so much commotion that the waitresses from Hooters were outside watching the marked and unmarked police cars speed by. The chase finally ended at the eastern end of Fairfax City near Fairfax Circle. Cruisers everywhere, helicopter overhead, you name it. The getaway car abandoned, engine still running, and the culprits nowhere in sight. The adrenaline-pumping, white-knuckled experience is another that we fondly recall. By this time, I had begun running for exercise and would usually run several miles a day before even arriving at work at 7 a.m. each morning. I donated my old Datsun 77 280Z to Marshall High School and had purchased a small, economical Chevy Geo Storm for my 36-mile-per-day round-trip commute to Fairfax City. I'd arrive at my desk, check messages. I don't recall if we actually had email back then, but we had some form of online messaging, eat an apple and a container of yogurt, and my first cup of coffee. Often I was joined by Steve Sellers, who was a second lieutenant and served as a patrol bureau aide. I think Fred Ellis or Dana Libby, I can't really recall, was the patrol major at the time. And Steve and I would exchange information about overnight happenings and events and basically gossip as first lieutenants who were aides might do. Steve was memorable for usually spilling his yogurt on his uniform. In 2008, Steve had been the deputy chief for administration for several years, a position I held from 1997 to 1999, when he eventually retired and became chief of the Albemarle County, Virginia Police Department. That's the one that envelops Charlottesville. One of the funniest, if not what you know, but not who you know, moments occurred, took me all the way back to WAMU-FM years. Tom and I have been exploring using a video link to expedite the arraignment process of arrestees. In Virginia, except for 2 or 3 misdemeanors, an arrestee had to appear before a magistrate to have bail set and incarcerated or be released on their promise to appear in court. Only the main jail and the Mount Vernon district stations had magistrates on duty. McLean had one assigned during my early years, but it was later eliminated due to service cuts or lack of business. Having only 2 magistrate locations meant that officers from all over the county would have to take their prisoners to one of these 2 locations. The UVA campus police in Blacksburg, Virginia, had been authorized to create a video conference link between their lockup and the local magistrate's office, permitting detainees to be arraigned in a manner more convenient to the officers and, if they were to be released on their recognizance, to the prisoner too. Tom and I had scouted this out, worked closely with the county's chief magistrate, and proposed a pilot program between the Mason district and either of the other 2 staffed magistrate locations. Things had been worked out with the county's IT folks, Verizon, except then it was Bell Atlantic or C&P Telephone, whoever it was, and the sheriff's office, as they would provide staffing at the Mason station to process the detainees. The only hurdle was getting an okay from the courts. Technically, court operations wouldn't allow for changes to their process without an approval from the state Supreme Court or whoever was responsible for oversight of operations. Our final step in seeing our innovative video magistrate system approved was presenting it to the county's circuit court judge who represented the courts in these technology matters. So the appointment was made that Chief of Police Mike Young, Deputy Chief Tom Sines, his aide Lieutenant Bill Brown, the county sheriff Carl Peed, the magistrate and her deputy were to meet with Fairfax County Circuit Court Judge Gerald Bruce Lee in his chambers. Little did the folks in the entourage know that many years before, Gerald Lee and Russell Williams were producers who worked for me at WAMU-FM running the Urban Broadcasting Workshop and producing a 3-hour-long Saturday afternoon news and music program, Spirits Known and Unknown. As we all assembled in the anteroom of Judge Lee's chambers, Mike Young or the sheriff or someone said something to the effect that Judge Lee could be real difficult. Just let him ask questions, answer as accurately as you can, and hope for the best, but don't get your hopes up.